Good evening, my dear listeners. How are you today? No, I don't mean the automatic answer we give everyone. I'm good. I'm fine. I mean, how are you? Really? I know it's a strange question because most of us have become experts at saying everything is fine, even on days when nothing feels fine. But for the next hour, you don't have to pretend. This is our little corner of the world. No deadlines, no meetings, no notification demanding your attention. No race, just you, me, and a conversation. So make yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath if you want to. Take a sip of your tea or coffee, or maybe just enjoy the silence around you. Because today's conversation is not one you should rush through. You know, I've been thinking about something lately. Have you noticed that life always seems to promise happiness in the future? When we are children, people smile at us and say, study hard, one day you'll become successful. And somehow, without realizing it, our mind starts making a deal with itself. I'll be happy later. Later, such a simple word, yet it quietly steals so many years from us. When you are in school, you tell yourself, life will be better once I get into college. Then college comes, and suddenly you say, no, life will actually begin when I get a good job. Then you get the job, the first salary arrives, you treat your family to dinner, you buy something you've wanted for years. For a few days, life feels wonderful. Then something interesting happens. The excitement slowly dies down. Your new salary becomes normal, the job becomes routine, and your mind quietly whispers, okay, what's next? So you start chasing the next milestone, a promotion, a better company, a bigger apartment, a nicer car, more savings, more recognition, more followers, more success, always more. It's almost as if happiness keeps saying, catch me if you can. And every time you think you've caught it, it slips through your fingers again. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe you've been saving money for months to buy a new phone. The day you finally buy it, you can't stop looking at it. You clean the screen every few minutes, you admire it from every angle, you show it to your friends, and then 2 weeks later, it's just your phone, nothing more. Or perhaps you've been waiting for a vacation for months, you count down the days, you imagine how relaxing it's going to be, then the trip ends, you come home, unpack your suitcase, and the very next morning, your alarm rings at 7 a.m. Life quietly returns to normal. Isn't it amazing how quickly we get used to the things we once prayed for? There is actually an old saying that I absolutely love. Wherever you go, there you are. At first, it sounds confusing, but think about it. We often believe that changing our job, our city, our income, or our lifestyle will automatically change how we feel inside. Sometimes it does, but not always. Because if our mind is constantly chasing the next destination, it carries that habit everywhere. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying success is meaningless. Not at all. Dream big, work hard, push yourself. There is another wonderful expression go the extra mile. I genuinely believe in that. But while you're busy building your career, don't forget to build your life. Because one day you might wake up, look around, realize you've achieved everything on your vision board, and still hear a quiet voice inside asking, why doesn't this feel the way I imagined? And that's exactly what happened to today's character. His name was Kabir. If success had a face, it probably looked a lot like him. But behind that success was a story no one knew. Every morning, he stood up by the large glass window with a cup of black coffee in his hand. From there, he could see almost the entire city waking up. Cars slowly filled the roads, people hurried towards bus stops, street vendors arranged fresh fruits on their carts. The city was always in a rush, and somehow, so was Kabir. His wardrobe was filled with neatly pressed shirts, his calendar was booked weeks in advance, his phone never stopped ringing. Meetings, emails, presentations, conference calls, business trips. Sometimes, even before finishing one meeting, he was already thinking about the next one. His life moved at such a fast pace that he had almost forgotten what it felt like to do absolutely nothing. And strangely, he was proud of that. Whenever someone said, you should slow down, he would laugh. Slow down? I'll slow down after I retire. Everyone around him laughed too. It sounded funny, but somewhere deep inside, he truly believed it. I think many of us think like Kabir. We convince ourselves that rest is something we have to earn, that happiness is a reward, that we'll finally enjoy life after the next promotion, after the next achievement, after we save a little more money. Now, working hard is not a bad thing. In fact, hard work opens many doors. But if we are not careful, we become so busy making a living that we forget to make a life. Maybe you've experienced this too. You tell yourself just one more month, just one more project, just one more exam, just one more client, but one more quietly turns into another year. And before you know it, life has been passing by while you've been making plans for it. Kabir was not always like this. When he first joined the company, he was only 24, fresh out of business school, full of excitement, full of ideas. On his very first day, he reached office almost 40 minutes early. He had polished his shoes twice that morning. He checked his tie in the mirror at least 5 times. He even rehearsed how he would introduce himself. Isn't that funny? We all do little things like that when we are nervous. We practice conversations that never actually happen. We imagine every possible situation. Sometimes our imagination works harder than we do. Kabir smiled as he remembered that day. He had walked into the office carrying a brand new laptop bag that his father had gifted him. It wasn't expensive. In fact, his father had quietly admitted, I had to think twice before buying it. Kabir never forgot that sentence. That bag wasn't just a bag, it was sacrifice, it was hope. It was his parents silently saying, we believe in you. And Kabir had made a promise to himself that very day. One day I'll make them proud. Not just a little proud. He wanted to give them everything that they had never been able to afford: a bigger house, comfortable holidays, the best healthcare, financial security. He wasn't chasing luxury, at least that's what he told himself. He was chasing peace. The first few years were difficult, very difficult. He was the youngest member of the team. Whenever extra work came up, it somehow landed on his desk. Kabir, could you stay back this evening? Sure. Can you finish this before tomorrow morning? No problem. Can you handle the client call this weekend? I'll take care of it. He rarely said no. Not because people forced him, but because he was afraid that saying no would make him look less committed. So he kept saying yes. One yes became another, then another, until saying yes became his default answer. Sometimes his friends invited him for dinner. He would reply, I'll try to make it. But deep down, he already knew he would not. His mother often called around 8 in the evening. Have you eaten? I'm about to. But more often than not, he wasn't. His dinner was usually a sandwich at his desk. While replying to emails, he kept telling himself, it's only temporary, things will settle down soon. But they never did, because success has a funny way of doing that. Every time you reach one level, another mountain quietly appears in front of you. And before you even celebrate, you're already climbing again. One evening, as Kabir finally shut down his laptop after another 14-hour workday, he looked around the empty office. The lights were still on. The cleaning staff had already begun their work. Outside, it had started raining. He walked toward the window. Tiny drops of rain slid down the glass. For a brief moment, he couldn't remember the last time he had washed the rain without thinking about work. He smiled to himself. Maybe after this promotion, I'll finally have time. He had no idea that life was about to teach him a lesson he never saw coming. The months passed, then the years. Kabir's name slowly started becoming known in the company. Whenever a difficult project landed on someone's desk, people would say, give it to Kabir. He'll figure it out. And somehow he always did. There is a wonderful phrasal verb, figure something out. It simply means to find a solution. Some people figure things out with experience, some with intelligence. Kabir figured things out with persistence. If plan A didn't work, he tried plan B. If plan B failed, he created plan C. Giving up simply wasn't part of his vocabulary. One Friday evening, almost everyone had gone home. The office, which usually buzzed with conversations during the day, had become unusually quiet. Only the soft sound of keyboards could be heard. Kabir looked around. 3 months ago, nearly 50 people had stayed late every evening. Tonight, only he was left. He smiled to himself. Looks like it's just you and me again, he whispered to his laptop. It had become a habit. He had missed so many sunsets. Then he no longer noticed when the sky changed color. He had missed so many family dinners that his parents had stopped asking, "Will you be home tonight?" Instead, his mother simply sent one message every evening: "Take care of yourself." No complaints, no questions, just those four words. Sometimes love becomes quieter with time, not because it becomes smaller, but because it learns that forcing someone never works. A few days later, Kabir went home to visit his parents. His mother had cooked all his favorite dishes. The dining table was completely full. He smiled proudly. "I didn't know what you would feel like eating, so I made everything." Kabir laughed. "Mom, there are only three of us." "I know, but you hardly come home anymore." There was no anger in her voice, only honesty. His father quietly served him another piece of bread. "So, how's work?" Kabir smiled. "It's going really well. I think this might finally be my year." His father nodded. "I'm happy to hear that." Then, after a brief pause, he asked, "And how are you?" Kabir looked confused. "I'm fine." His father gently smiled. "No, I know work is fine. I'm asking about you." For a moment, Kabir didn't know how to answer. When was the last time someone had asked him that? Not about his career, not about his salary, not about his promotion, just him. So he gave the answer most of us give: "I'm good." And the conversation moved on. You know, it's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes we become so busy talking about what we are doing that we forgot to ask ourselves how we are actually doing. Our job becomes our identity, our achievements become our introduction. Think about it. When we meet someone new, what's one of the first questions we ask? "So, what do you do?" Very rarely do we ask, "What makes you happy?" or "What do you enjoy doing when you're not working?" Maybe because deep down, many of us don't know the answer anymore. A month later, the company announced its annual leadership conference. Employees from different cities had gathered for the event. The auditorium was beautifully decorated. There were bright lights, large screens, motivational speeches, and a sense of excitement in the air. Toward the end of the evening, the CEO walked onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make a special announcement." The room became silent. "We are pleased to announce our new regional director." Kabir felt his heart beating faster. No, he wasn't expecting his name, or maybe a small part of him was. The CEO opened the envelope, smiled, and said, "Congratulations, Kabir Sharma." For a second, everything around him disappeared. The applause sounded distant. People stood up. His colleagues shook his hand. Someone patted him on the back. Another person said, "You deserve it." His phone started buzzing almost immediately. Messages, calls, congratulations. Flowers arrived. His inbox was overflowing. That evening, as he walked into his new office, he couldn't help but smile. It was everything he had imagined: a large wooden desk, floor to ceiling windows, a comfortable leather chair, his own name written neatly outside the cabin: Regional Director. He gently touched the nameplate with his fingertips. It had taken him nearly 15 years to get there. 15 years of sacrifices, late nights, missed birthdays, cancelled vacations, countless cups of coffee, endless deadlines. Standing there, he quietly whispered, "It was all worth it." That night, he drove home through the city. For the first time in years, he didn't switch on a podcast. He didn't answer work calls. He simply drove. There was a strange sense of peace. He reached his apartment, placed his keys on the table, and opened the balcony door. A cool breeze welcomed him. Far below, the city was still awake. Somewhere a train passed, a dog barked in the distance. The world continued exactly as it always had. Kabir closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and smiled. "I have finally made it." He genuinely believed life was about to become easier. He believed all those years of running were finally over. He had absolutely no idea that the hardest part of his journey wasn't the climb, it was what came after reaching the top. For the next few weeks, life felt exactly the way Kabir had imagined. His mornings began differently now. He no longer rushed out of the apartment carrying 3 bags and a half eaten sandwich. He had a driver, he had an assistant, he had people waiting outside his office instead of him waiting outside someone else's. It felt good, very good. He called his mother more often, he surprised his parents with a weekend trip, he bought his father the watch he had admired in a shop window for years. His father looked at the watch, then looked at Kabir. You shouldn't have spent so much. Kabir smiled. I have wanted to do this for a long time. His father hugged him. It was one of those quiet hugs, the kind where no words are needed. As Kabir drove back that evening, he thought to himself, this is it. This is why I worked so hard. For the first time in years, he felt as though life was finally falling into place. But life has a funny way of introducing change. Not all at once, but quietly, almost politely, so politely that you don't even notice it at first. About a month later, Kabir woke up on a Saturday morning. His phone was unusually quiet, no urgent emails, no missed calls, no meetings, no presentations. He stretched, made himself a cup of coffee, and sat near the window. The city looked beautiful. Children were playing in the park below. A couple walked hand in hand. Someone was jogging with their dog. The morning was peaceful, exactly the kind of morning he had dreamed about for years. He took a sip of coffee, then another. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes, 15, and suddenly, without warning, a strange thought crossed his mind. Now what? He frowned. It was an odd question. He had been waiting for a free Saturday for years. Now he finally had one. Yet, he didn't know what to do with it. You know, that part of story always makes me stop and think. Because many of us spend years saying, I wish I had more free time. But when that free time finally arrives, we realize we have forgotten how to enjoy it. We have become so used to being busy that stillness feels uncomfortable. There is an idiom that fits perfectly here: an idle mind. People often say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Now, I'm not talking about laziness, I'm talking about something deeper. Sometimes, when the noise around us disappears, we finally hear the noise inside us. And that's exactly what happened to Kabir. He switched on the television, nothing interesting, he switched it off. He opened his laptop, then closed it again. He thought about calling a friend, then he remembered he had not spoken to most of them in months, maybe even years. He scrolled through his contacts, so many names, so many people, yet he couldn't think of one person he could call and simply say, let's have coffee. Not because they didn't like him, but because somewhere along the way he had lost touch with almost everyone. One promotion, then another, one deadline, then another. Life had kept moving. So had everyone else. He decided to go for a walk. It had been years since he had walked without checking the time. As he entered the nearby park, he noticed things he had forgotten existed. A little boy trying to fly a kite, two elderly men laughing over a game of chess, a young couple sitting on a bench sharing a packet of roasted peanuts, a group of friends arguing about cricket. He smiled. Then a thought quietly slipped into his mind. When was the last time I laughed like that? Not smiled politely, not laughed during a meeting, really laughed. The kind of laughter that makes your stomach hurt. He couldn't remember. On his way back, he passed a small roadside tea stall. Normally, he would have walked straight past it, but something made him stop. Perhaps it was the smell of fresh ginger tea, or perhaps he simply wasn't in a hurry for the first time in years. He ordered a cup of tea. The owner handed it to him with a warm smile. Long week, sir. Kabir laughed softly. Very long. The old man nodded as if he understood. Then he said something so simple, yet so profound, that Kabir would remember it for the rest of his life. He said, work fills your pocket, sir, but people fill your life. Kabir looked up. The old man wasn't trying to sound wise. He simply said it the way someone talks about the weather, naturally, casually. Then he went back to making tea for the next customer. But Kabir stood there silently. Those words stayed with him long after the tea was finished. As he walked home, he couldn't shake that sentence out of his mind. Work fills pocket, but people fill your life. He had spent 15 years building a career, but when was the last time he had built a memory? When was the last time he had spent an entire evening with his parents without checking his phone? When was the last time he had called an old friend just to ask, "How have you been?" When was the last time he had washed the rain without thinking about tomorrow? For the first time in years, Kabir wasn't thinking about his next promotion. He wasn't thinking about his next project. He was thinking about something much more uncomfortable. Had he been so busy making a successful life that he had forgotten to make a meaningful one? My dear listeners, you slowly forget what's truly important, not because you wanted to, but because life became busy. And I wonder, have we all lost sight of something? A hobby, a friendship, a dream, a quiet evening with our family, or maybe even ourselves? Before we say goodbye today, I would like to leave you with one final thought. Success is a beautiful thing. Please don't stop dreaming. Don't stop working hard. Don't stop learning. Don't stop trying to become better than you were yesterday. Because hard work has a way of opening doors that talent alone sometimes can't. The world is full of opportunities, and I truly hope you explore every one of them. But while you're busy building your career, don't forget to build your relationships. While you are saving money, don't forget to collect memories. While you are climbing the ladder, don't forget to look around once in a while, because the view is beautiful only if you have someone to share it with. You know, I often wonder what success really looks like. Is it a bigger house, a high salary, a better job title? Maybe for some people it is. But I also think success is coming home and having someone who is genuinely happy to see you. Success is being able to call your parents, not because you have good news, but simply because you miss their voice. Success is laughing so hard with an old friend that you completely lose track of time. Success is having dinner without checking your phone every few minutes. Success is sleeping peacefully because your mind is not carrying tomorrow's worries into tonight. Maybe success isn't one big moment. Maybe it's made up of hundreds of small moments that we are often too busy to notice. There is a beautiful expression I want you to remember. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Most people use it when talking about money, but I think it applies to life as well. Don't put all your happiness into one promotion, one exam, one business, one achievement, one destination. Because if that one thing doesn't happen, or even if it does, your happiness should not disappear with it. Let your happiness have many homes: your family, your friends, your health, your hobbies, your faith, your quiet evenings, your morning walks, your favorite cup of tea, a good book, a meaningful conversation. The more places happiness can live, the harder it becomes for life to take it away. And before you go, I would like to ask you something, not for me, for yourself. When you wake up tomorrow morning, don't ask, "What do I need to achieve today?" Ask yourself, "What kind of day do I want to experience?" Maybe today you'll finish an important project. Wonderful. Maybe today you'll spend 10 extra minutes talking to your parents. Wonderful. Maybe today you'll watch the sunset instead of another email. Wonderful. Maybe today you'll finally call that friend you've been meaning to call for months. Wonderful. Because life isn't only happening on the days we achieve something, life is happening today, right now, in this very moment. Don't let it pass you by. Well, that's all for tonight, my dear listeners. If today's story made you pause, even for a moment, then perhaps it has already done its job. And if there is someone you have been meaning to call or someone you have been too busy to spend time with, maybe this is your sign. Not tomorrow, not next weekend, today. Because promotions can wait, emails can wait, meetings can be rescheduled, but some moments quietly slip away and they never come back. Thank you for letting me be a small part of your evening. Take care of yourself, take care of the people you love. Keep learning, keep growing, keep dreaming. But wherever life takes you, don't become so busy chasing success that you forget to enjoy the journey. Until we meet again, this is your friend wishing you a peaceful night. Good night, and I'll see you in the next episode.